All right, go ahead. So 100 and what was it? 100.
Like 136 or something like that. You'll have walked past, you'll have walked past at least 100 and some odd murderers in your entire life. When that fact actually came true, when I found out that guy that was involved in that standoff, he was down there 2 nights before getting tobacco
Down where?
at Colette's.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was down there 2 nights before. He was a customer. He was a local. Because when I first started down there, when I seen the picture of him, I'm like, that guy comes in here at least once a week, if not twice a week, for tobacco. Girl I was working with was like, yeah, he comes in here at least once or twice a week. He was one of the guys involved in that. When they went down to Huck's, that guy, he went inside Huck's. Police followed him in there, I guess. Mm-hmm. When they caught up to him, he gave up peacefully. He seen them come in, threw his hands behind his back, and instantly went outside with them.
Yeah.
The guy that was with him had a 9mm pointed up to his neck, but when he shot himself, it went this way. From point blank range, he had it here, and the bullet went that way. So, needless to say, yeah, it was kind of a dark joke. I was like, well, one guy went peacefully, the other guy tried to go in pieces.
Oh my God.
Hey.
God dang it, man.
I mean, seriously, I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
In your entire lifetime of knowing everybody that you know and meeting everybody that you've ever met, right? You would never think that somebody, whether it's somebody you worked for, somebody you've known your whole life, somebody you've met or whatever, you would never think that there was ever a possibility that you would ever know somebody that was like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know, yeah. Well, I mean, he's not a serial killer, but there's a guy I went to school with, friend. He just killed somebody, what was it, 2 months ago? And what's crazy is I heard that he could have gotten away with it if he didn't have the murder weapon on him when they picked him up. Ain't that's like, what? But, yeah, back to that whole story though. What's crazy about that is, so, yeah, a friend ended up taking the couch home. Had the couch in his living room and everything.
Like, how could you not notice the smell?
It didn't smell, man. It'd been so long, been like over a year or so or more.
How could you not notice the weight?
No, it'd been years. It'd been, it had been years since it had happened, and I'll tell you why I knew that. Because when we had looked it up, the girlfriend was getting ready to get out. It'd been over 8 years since they had, the woman had died or whatever.
How could you not notice though?
I don't know, but anyways, the neighbor lady that tells us the story, I'd have my guys take her trash out all the time, because it was she had a really long driveway type of deal, and to the street, or walk to the street from her house. God, it was probably 50 yards. It was crazy. Anyways, me and him had a disagreement, the guy that owned the house or whatever, and he decided he wanted to have somebody else finish the job instead of me, which was fine. Whatever. I wasn't going to do it for that cheap. And so the lady calls me, and she's like, my trash ain't been taken out. I was like, well, I ain't working on that anymore. I was like, he didn't want me to do the job. He thought that he could get it done half the price and whatever else, which was funny because somebody drove by. She said, yeah, I figured that wasn't your guy, because this guy's standing on the porch in flip-flops, no shirt, drinking a beer, painting the doors. Like,
right.
That ain't one of my guys. But anyways, when he went to put it up for sale, the house to put up for sale, he called me and he was like, she's killing me, man. I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, the neighbor lady. I go, why? He's like, you got to call her off. I was like, call her off? What do you mean call her off? every time somebody would come to try to buy the house, she'd be like, "Did you hear about the murder that happened in there?" And like, he could not sell the house because she was so pissed at him for getting rid of me. So there'd be people like almost, and it was a beautiful house, man. We'd really done a lot of work on this, but she would show up and be like, "Yeah, it's a nice house, but did you hear about the murders that happened in this house?" And so then people would walk away, not want to buy the house, and but yeah,
at least she's being honest.
yeah. So I called her and I was like, "You need Miss whatever her name was, like Smith or something. It was one of those normal last names. I need you to back off of him." I was like, He's suffered long enough, I guess, whatever." And then the house sold, but yeah, man. So here's what's even crazier. Okay, the next job that I take was in Charlestown. And that was way far away, like probably 80 miles or more from where that job was. Okay.
Mm.
And it was a siding job, and we were putting siding on the house. And it's for a single woman, and she was in her like her 30s or so,
Mm.
Anyways, she invited us in her house, gave us water and everything, stuff like that. It was really hot in summer. Anyways, we're in lemonade and whatever else. Anyways, we're all like, God, we were all like, she looks so familiar. Like, how do I know her? And we're like, all three of us. And we're like, how do we know this woman? Like, and she'd never been up there in our area or anything like that. And then one day it hits us. We're like, holy shit. She looked identical to the woman that was murdered at that last job in those 70s pictures. I'm not joking, dude. Still to this day, it gives it, like I'm feeling like cold chills down my spine, even like talking about it, because I mean it seriously was freaking it. She looked just like her. I was like, holy crap. And Ben that was working with me, he was like, he was he was like, well, we all know how this is going to end. I'm like, shut up. Don't.
Not again. No. We're trying to get rid of this job. We don't want it.
Yeah. No. But yeah, it was freaky as all get out, dude. It looked just like the woman that been murdered, like 8 years or whatever, 10 years before or something crazy like that, so.
When I lived over there in Fort Smith, besides that murder happening there was a murder that took place. It was like 6 months prior to that. I lived on 11th and Grand Avenue, which cut right through the middle of downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Avenue was like 2 blocks up, because the streets in Fort Smith were labeled A, B, C, D, E. That's how they're labeled. Like, I kid you not. You can look it up on a map, and it'll say A Street, B Street, C, D, E.
Boy, and there was no imagination there, was there?
Oh, dude, it was like, okay, so like the numbered streets were like 1 through 11,
Mm-hmm.
1 through 12 or something like that. And then you would have your A, B, C, D, E. North A, South A, North B, South B. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Like, I have been down to X, Y, and Z Street, literally. Like, walking.
Oh, wait, it goes all the way down to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, it goes all the way to X, Y, and Z.
Good Lord.
X, Y, and Z, and then they got, like, Boston Street, Dallas Street. I think it's like Boston, Dallas, Houston, Cincinnati, Cleveland. It's Fort Smith. It's weird. It's really weird how they labeled it. And then you got like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all that stuff, and it's odd. it's a nice place, beautiful place, but it's it's not for the faint of heart.
Hmm.
Like, I was warned before going down there that if you're like a happy couple that, just barely got together or whatever, and you wind up making some friends down there, that these people were going to do anything and everything they could to tear you apart. That's exactly what they did. Um, I found out after being with this woman for 7 years. After being with her for 7 years, found out she cheated on me pretty much the whole time.
Good Lord.
Did everything she could to try to get rid of me, and that included eliminating me,
Trying to kill you?
literally.
All right, I gotta hear this story.
You got to hear this.
Yeah.
All right, so the way she tried to kill me was when we worked at the motel. She fed me bedbug poison for about a year.
What? What
Yes,
the heck?
she fed me bedbug poison for a year. She would take it because we had a
How'd she feed it to you?
coffee.
Oh my God.
This is what happened. So I worked in
How'd you
maintenance.
find out? I mean, how did you figure it out?
It took me a while, but it took me a while. It took me until, later on down the road to figure out that she had been poisoning me for over a year.
Yeah, but how did you find that out? Like that part?
Because I remembered I was asleep one night, and like when you work with certain things, you can never forget the smell of it.
Mm-hmm.
Certain chemicals,
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
things, what's not. Well, I remembered I woke up one morning and I went to go get a sip of my coffee, and it smelled a little bit different, but I didn't taste anything. It just smelled different. So I thought at first, I was like, okay, I think maybe she might have put a little bit of vanilla in there or something. It just didn't taste
Yeah.
normal. So I was like, well, maybe there was. So next day I woke up, drank some coffee, and this is when she was poisoning me. Woke up the next morning. Now it smelled different. It smelled like wood. So I'm like, is there some kind of? I was like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really,
Yeah.
brain's not really registering what's going on. So I worked maintenance. She was housekeeping. So when I worked in maintenance, this is how I got lucky and survived it, because I worked around so many poisonous chemicals. They had literally over time soiled into my skin
Oh,
because
come
I was
on.
because I was breathing it in constantly. That's why,
You became immune to it.
basically, yeah,
Oh my God.
I became immune to it, because like when people needed their room sprayed, I'd have to make a batch every time. I had to use a pump sprayer, a 1 gallon pump sprayer, and I'd have to go to people's rooms, turn their beds inside out, spray their whole bed with this stuff, top to bottom, in top to bottom, left to right, side to side, up and down,
Hmm.
every which direction. So I remember this stuff would be in a clear bottle, had two caps on the top. One was for pressure, one was to pour, and it was real milky. Looked real milky. Pour it in, get some hot, boiling hot water, put in my pump, go to these rooms, spray them down with this stuff. And I'd have to do this like, oh my God, sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, different rooms needed sprayed. So while I was in these rooms, I would have to shut the door behind myself, so all that steam and that smell was coming out from when I was spraying and everything. So I eventually built up an immunity to it, didn't really realize it. When I realized, like I said, it took me till we had been broken up, till I came all the way up here to realize she had been trying to poison me for over a year.
Did you go through withdrawals for that stuff? or
I
anything
didn't.
like that?
I didn't because I was working around stuff like bed bug poison, roach poison,
Hmm.
industrial bleach, regular bleach. I mean, I was working around all kinds of poisonous chemicals, stuff that it would kill you. Um, I guess the indoor outdoor bleach that I used pretty much, once you inhale that stuff, I mean, it gets into your body and you just, your eyes start to burn, your nose
Oh
starts to
yeah,
burn. I mean, this is strong stuff. Like if I was to spray it right over there, we'd
yeah,
have to evacuate the house for at least a few hours
yeah, for
because it's
sure.
so strong.
Oh yeah, it's some bad stuff. I know.
I used it to clean out. I had to clean out a room one day, and I'll never forget it, dude. Had to go in there after these people moved out, and we cleaned out their room and whatnot. And after we cleaned the room out, I had to go in the bathroom and spray it down. Well, I didn't have anything to spray the walls down with besides just some regular cleaner stuff, some cheap crap. I'm like, I don't need that. I was like, that's not going to help me out much because I'm going to have to come back here and scrub shit out. So I went down to my boss at the time. I was like, you got anything strong? He goes, what do you mean? I said, bleach wise. He goes, that's when he introduced me to what's called industrial bleach,
Hmm.
the indoor outdoor bleach. He goes, if you use this stuff, he was like, I will tell you what. He's like, that's top of the line bleach right there. He was like, if you use that stuff, you're going to want, he was like, don't use it too much at one time. He was like, you're going to have to evacuate your room. I was like, it's not that strong. I was like, I can handle regular bleach. He goes, no. He was like, this stuff will make you burn. So at first I didn't believe him. So I went in this room that we were cleaning and I had to spray out the bathroom with this stuff. Sprayed the whole bathroom with it.
Oh shit.
Sprayed the whole bathroom, like the tiles, the tub, the ceiling. Sprayed it because I was trying to kill the black mold. And this stuff was the only thing that would kill it
Mhm.
because regular bleach would have just washed it off.
It bleaches it. It bleaches it.
But, you know,
Mhm.
industrial bleach will literally go right to the source of whatever's causing it and it deletes everything. I sprayed the whole bathroom with this stuff. Dude, I barely made it to the door before I opened it up and I let that fresh wind hit me. All I could smell was bleach for like a week. I couldn't even smell a cigarette when I smoked it. I could not smell anything but bleach.
Oh my
Everything I
god.
ate tasted like bleach. Everything I drank tasted like bleach. It was that strong. My eyes were on fire when I had to clean out that room after the dead body. Same thing. I used bleach in the whole room. Boss wanted me to clean it out. And you know what the boss did? He complained. He complained about the way I did it.
With the bleach?
Yeah. He asked me, he goes, what are you using to clean? He was like, what are you using to kill the smell in there? I said, industrial bleach.
That's about the only thing it will do it.
He asked me, he goes, how much do you need to use? I said, just walk in that room. So he did. He walked in the room and he come back out. His eyes were redder than that sign right there, and his nose. He came back out and he goes, I can't smell a damn thing. I said, I've been in there for over an hour and look at me. He goes, your eyes look puffy. I'm like, step back in that room for another 2 minutes and you'll see what I'm feeling. He goes, well, how are you feeling? I said, I don't know. It's kind of hard to gauge right now. he goes, he goes, that stuff's really got you messed up, huh? I was like, this is what happens when you have to work around poisonous chemicals all day.
Yeah. So
Hey,
what? So she tried. She tried to.
what happened is like the maids were not allowed into the maintenance rooms, and the maintenance guys weren't allowed into the maids' room, for
Yeah.
our purposes. Somehow she was getting a hold of this bed bug juice that we used on the rooms. She was somehow getting a hold of it and she would pour a little bit in my coffee
Gosh,
every
man.
morning
That's.
and I didn't really realize that that's what she was doing until one day I smelt it and then I went to work. Because we lived at the motel that
Yeah.
we worked at. I didn't really realize what it was until one day when I went to work with that stuff. I'm like, and then so the next day I woke up, drank my coffee. I'm like, I go to work. I'm working with. I'm like, no shit. I'm like, she's been pouring this stuff in my coffee, trying to kill me with it. And she did.
Death by coffee.
She tried to kill me with it, but she didn't have it. She didn't have this. She she didn't realize that with me working around all that poison, I developed an immunity to it
Mm-hmm.
because I was ingesting it basically. Like I'd have to spray it in a closed room, so therefore I had to breathe that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wear a mask because a mask would make it too hot.
Yeah.
And when you're working with stuff like that, like especially like when you're working around bed bugs, the boss looked at me and he goes, "Well, you need to bring that mattress outside when you do it." I was like, "No, you leave it in the room and do it." "Well, why?" I was like, "Because if there's bugs and shit on there, all it takes is the wind to blow and they go to someone else's room." I was like, "It's that easy for
Yeah.
those things to travel." He was like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, all it takes is for the right wind to pick up and someone else's room gets them. And then guess what? Guess who has to get called in there? Me."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Dude, I work around this stuff all the time." I was like, "You don't." I also had to work with that, what's that stuff that they use to spray on your gardens with? Um,
Roundup.
yes, I had to work with Roundup too. Had to use hot ass water on that. So, and I guess Roundup is one of the
Yeah, they're
most cancerous things you can use.
yeah.
So, lucky enough for me, you know, my body's ingested so much poison that
You're immune to it.
pretty much I
That's about like me and asbestos, man. I had asbestos problem. Working with that, I was using a saw, cutting it and stuff, and it got so bad that I was breathing it in and basically eating it. You know what I mean? Like it
mhm.
to where heck, I was even shitting out white for weeks over that whole ordeal. So if anybody's got that whatever it's called from asbestos, it'd be me.
The last thing I remember was I went to the hospital. It was like this goes back like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Went to the hospital. I woke up. I
Keep
had
going.
this bone curling, just pain going on in my stomach. And so I woke up and it hurt so bad. I was letting these screams out because it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Well, when I got up, she called, got us a ride to the hospital. A friend of ours came by, picked us up, took us to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They got me in the x-ray room. They took an x-ray of my stomach. I mean, this pain was so bad that it almost made me cry. It hurt that bad. Like I wanted to throw up, but I couldn't because it was just so bad. It was that intense.
And that's from all that happening.
She had fed me something that had bones in it. When they did an x-ray on my stomach, they looked at me and they said, "You have bone fragments on the insides of your intestines."
Bone fragments, and then that's great. So she grinded it up or what?
She somehow either grinded it up or fed it to me. I
Hmm.
don't remember eating nothing like that when I was awake, so she must have done it when I was asleep. She must
Shit.
have fed me something and I swallowed it, not realizing what it was.
What the heck?
Yeah,
Bone fragment.
yeah,
Or did you
dude.
swallow a mouse or something like
No,
that?
no, it wasn't a mouse. It
Yeah.
was just bone fragments, and they found it all on the insides of my intestines.
What the?
Oh, it hurt so bad. It hurt so bad.
That ain't. I mean, sort of like a dog with chicken bones. They have issues with that.
2 weeks later, uh, yeah, 2 weeks later, here come Christmas. She beat me in the face with them popcorn tins.
Mm-hmm.
She took the lid to one of those and beat me in the face with it.
Holy cow!
Busted me right here. I'm right here. And told me to leave. So I did. I left. I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm over it. So on the way over, We lived right by a cesspool, so I thought about just jumping over this fence and diving into this cesspool. Just that was it. I was done. Like she had wiped my mind. She had reprogrammed me and wiped my mind clean.
God, man.
She told me that my mom here. Well, you know who my mom is.
Mm-hmm.
She told me, she's like, that ain't your mom. She ain't the one that gave birth to you. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, that's my mom because she never gave up on me. I was like, when my family walked out on me and gave up on me, I was like, that woman right there is the one that never gave up on me. I was like, she took me under her wing. You know what I'm saying? She did what a mom would do.
Yeah.
I was like, that's why I call her mom. Because she was there for me when I had nobody. Well, anyways, we lived right by this cesspool. So I was going to jump this fence and jump into a cesspool. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. So I walked down to this other girl's house that we had met that lived in a trailer park. She lived there with her boyfriend and her kids. Walked in. I walked in this girl's room and I'll never forget it. As soon as I walked in the room, just she started crying instantly, like tears just started pouring down her face, just instantly when she looked at me. I looked at her. I said, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "Why? Why are you crying?" She goes, "You don't get it, do you?" I was like, "No, I don't understand why you're crying." I'm like, "It didn't happen to you. It happened to me." I was like, "But I'm still here, ain't I?" She's like, "Yeah, but that's not the point." I was like, "Look, the point is, I'm here. It happened to me. Don't cry." I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Ain't nothing to cry about." Well, she looked at me and she goes, "You didn't deserve that." She was like, "You didn't deserve none of what she did to you." I was like, "Her day's coming." I was like, "There's nothing I can do," but I was like, big man
Mm-hmm.
upstairs is watching. That's all I can say about that. She come over 2 days later talking about how uh, she was trying to pick an argument with this girl saying that I hit her. I never touched her.
Yeah.
She came over with red marks on her arm. Now you tell me, red marks aren't going to stick there for 2 days. They're going to
Yeah.
eventually turn into bruises, right?
Yeah.
She came over there 2 days later with fresh red marks on her, saying that I hit her. She was trying to get me locked up for a second time for something I didn't do. The
It's
first
crazy,
time,
man.
the first time she got me locked up was because she told the cops that I hit her. That's when we were living out here in Marengo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she told the cops that she told the cops that I literally beat the holy hell out of her, and I never touched her, and it was proven that I never did. But the second charge, which was intimidation, that's where they got me at because of what I
Mm-hmm.
said I was going to do,
Mm-hmm.
which I never did. But I was just like, hey, they're gonna throw a charge at me anyway, so might as well make it worth my while.
Oh my God.
That's what I did.
But so where's she at now? Do you even know?
You want
Well, I mean, state wise, she's not here, right?
fucked up,
Yeah.
state-wise fucked up. No,
Okay.
um, as far as I know, Washington D.C. That's just as far as I know.
This wasn't Nancy Pelosi, was it? No, just.
No, good God, I wouldn't touch her with an animal.
uh,
I wouldn't know. Uh,
God,
no, my second ex-wife, like I said,
she's
she was
crazy.
oh,
Crazy, wanted to kill you.
crazy wasn't the word for it. She was just straight evil.
Yeah,
She was just straight evil.
man.
Like when I got put on probation here, My probation officer was pretty cool out of Crawford County. He was pretty cool. He was like, I heard you're moving to Arkansas. I said, yeah, because I have nowhere else to go up here. He was like, well, where are you going to go? I said, I'm going down to Arkansas. Well, who do you know down there? I said, well, I know some people that know some people that'll let me stay there. He's like, all right, well, he's like, I'd rather see that you get out of here and do yourself better.
Yeah.
So, we did a thing where I would call him once a month and check in with my probation and all that stuff. And then I had to do classes, of course, which I did that. I was 3 classes short of graduating and came back up here the first time. 3 classes short of graduating because I remember
From parole, yeah,
from
probation.
yeah. The reason why I came up here was because me and my old lady got into it at the time, and I was working nights, and I got home at like 4:30 one morning. I was trying to go to sleep, and she had just irritated me so bad. So the last thing she said to me was, "I can't breathe with you in the same room." So I said, "Okay." I was like, "Is that?" I was like, "Is that your final remark?" I was like, "Is that what you really want to say?" She was like, "I meant it, didn't I?" I was like, "Okay." I was like, "That's great." I was like, "It's nice to know that." I was like, "So you can't breathe with me in the same room?" I was like, "You sure on that?" I was like, "You don't want to take that back or anything?" No. Okay. Next morning, got up, went to the bus station, took off, and left. I was in Kansas City before she even knew I left.
God.
I was sitting in Kansas City.
And that's how you ended up back here?
I came back up here. I came back up here, went to go visit my mom, and so I called my probation office because, I was three
Yeah.
classes short of graduating, so I wanted to call him. I was like, well, I was like, he answered his phone. He's like, how come you're calling? I said, I crossed state line without your permission to get back up here to Indiana. I was like, so, and I'm 3 classes short of graduating. I was like, so I'm sitting up here at my mom's. I was like, so if you want to send somebody to come get me, I was like, I'm sitting here waiting on you. I was like, I'll be here all day. Just come get me. He was like, well, I'm glad you called me, but he's like, you're no longer my probationee. I was like, well, that's great. Who do I call? Who do I contact? He goes, you don't contact anybody. He goes, when did you get in? I said, Friday. He was like, oh, well, that's cool. I'm thinking like he's being awfully nice, because once you cross state line, it's a done deal. That's an automatic 5 or 10 years you get.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you cross county line, that's an automatic. I don't even know how much time you get. You get like 6 months or something like that. So I figured I did all the math. I'm like, well, it took me a few county lines to get here and 3 state lines. I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of time. I was like, man, I'm looking at doing like 25, 30 years just because I crossed 3 state lines and probably 50 county lines.
So
You
what did
know,
he say?
he was like, I asked him, I was like, who do I report to for my probation? He goes, you don't report to anybody. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I'm done with you. I was like, well, that's great, but who do I report to? Who do I call? I was like, I'm all confused. He goes, you're a free man. I was like, what? He goes, you're free. I said, what do you mean I'm free? I don't get it. I was like, I understand I'm free now, but I was like, I don't get it. And that's when he broke it down. He was like, dude, I paid for your way. He's like, I waived all your court costs. He's like, I waived everything. I was like, so you don't need a certificate of graduation to show that I graduated the classes? He goes, no. He was like, you're a free man. I was like, so you mean to tell me? He goes, dude, you don't have any more probation. Everything's all paid for. He was like, you're good. He was like, you're as good as gold. You're free. It took me coming all the way up here.
To know that.
Took me coming all the way up here, 3 classes short of graduating to know that I was free. I asked him, I said, when did you do all this? He said, I did all this like a month ago. I didn't call him for like a month. I'm like, I'm a little late on that. I need to call. Didn't know that he took care of everything. I asked him, I said, why'd you take care of everything for me? You know what he told me? Because of all my probation needs, he's like, you're one of the first ones to show me that you can do it.
Hmm.
He was like, you went to Arkansas, you stayed out of trouble, you did everything you had to do. And he was like, I saw no reason to keep you on probation any longer. He was like, you did everything you were supposed to do to a T.
Hmm.
And he was like, and that's why I went ahead and paid for everything to get wiped off. He was like, you're still going to have your record, but he was like, I just want to let you know everything's been paid.
That's freaking awesome, though.
Just what makes it hard now is because I have those 2 felonies on my record. A lot of people don't understand what makes it hard with 2 felonies is if I go to leave, like if I was to go to leave from here and find another place somewhere else, I'd have to find somewhere that would accept me with those two,
Yeah.
with a felony on my record, especially what they call a violent felony. That's what mine is. Mine's violent.
Even though it's not, even though it wasn't.
Even though it wasn't, it's still considered. They're
Yeah.
they're both still violent felonies.
Stupid.
It is. Some people don't understand. Like the peaks up there, they used to take anybody and everybody that was looking
Well,
for
they look.
work.
Yeah, but they're looking at. They're people are just looking at the paper. They're not looking at the individual or the actual truth behind it all.
Hmm. That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah, I know. I know, man.
I guess I'm not gonna lie. Like in the last, ever since I caught that, it's been hard. It's been really hard to find a place. Like I came to Paoli 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't even let you have an apartment, kind of stuff too. I bet.
I applied over at Paoli Heights. They told me I had a certain number I had to call because of my background.
Hmm.
They said I had to call this number, and they asked me, they're like, who was your former probation officer? I had to call all the way down to Crawford County, and they couldn't help me. So I couldn't even get a place. I couldn't even get put on. I couldn't even get put on the lease over at
Hmm.
Summer's place. Couldn't get put on her lease because of that. I wound up getting kicked out a short time later. Well, so wound up staying with a friend of mine for a while. Then I got swamped one night at work by the police department. Down at Colette's actually where I work at. I got swamped.